Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. First off, before I get into what I want to talk on today, you should all be ashamed of yourself for objectifying a poor mountain. Yeah, I know why you clicked on this video. But anyway, anyway, the thing that I want to talk about today, as said, is objectification, because it is a thing that is brought up so regularly and is much more nuanced than people would usually suggest it is, especially considering that it's usually only the objectification of women that is brought up at the moment. Whilst there is the objectification of men, there is the objectification of animals, children, whatever. And the thing is, objectification comes actually, in its most base terms, in four different types, and I'm going to be referencing or paraphrasing from the some of the work of Martha Nussbaum. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. I could be butchering it. Who put together some work a long while back on objectification that was published in Philosophy and Public Affairs. And as a result, I'm going to run down the seven different types and then just put my thoughts on it. So the seven different forms of objectification aren't anything to do with sexual objectification in one way or the other or anything like that. You've got, according to Martha Nussbaum, you've got instrumentality, i.e. treating a person or animal as if they are a tool to achieve a purpose. You've got the second one, which is denial of autonomy, saying that someone or treating someone as if they lack autonomy or self-determinism. The third is inertness, suggesting that they lack agency or the capacity to carry out activity. Four, fungibility, which is the treating a person as if they're easily interchangeable with other objects or things. And that one's an interesting one. I'll come back to that later. The fifth one that she lists is violability, which is kind of the lacking of boundary and integrity or prevention of violation. It's the kind of otherness, the objectification in that regard, where you can see this most, I feel, where you, just because someone is other, they are an object that is other from you, therefore they aren't human in your eyes, and as a result you are able to attack them without feeling bad. You see that in an awful lot of extremist ideologies, and this is kind of the form of objectification that speaks to that. You've got ownership, which is fairly obvious, whereby you're treating a person as if they are owned or bought or can be sold or traded. And then you've got the denial of subjectivity, which is treating a person as if there is no need for concern for their experiences or feelings. And I'll come back to that one as well. But so that's kind of the set of definitions as laid out within kind of social philosophy and stuff like that. And yeah, you can see elements in there that overall objectification in this light isn't a great thing. It removes an awful lot from a person. It minimizes them and reduces them in such a way that they're easy to use or take advantage of or whatever else. But the thing is, I look at this, and then and this is coming out of academia and so on, and I want to try and apply this, this just list of things to the real world, because that's where we live, that's where we work, that's where we do stuff. There's no point in taking purely these definitions and these ideas purely in a vacuum and not trying to apply them to the real world. So, in terms of instrumentality, well, yeah, we do that all the time. There's a reason for it, because of the whole, you're not going to necessarily get to know someone who you are getting a service from, and as a result, treating them as a tool. You will call the plumber to get something fixed. In even if you don't necessarily treat them like that directly when you meet them, it's a case of you are taking the services and the abilities of someone and putting them to use. It's not necessarily a purely negative thing. It can be, but it's just a way of interacting with the world. And this is where I want to just quickly jump to the fungibility one. If you don't interact with those people and gain a deep understanding of who that person is, bypass us on the street, for example, you're not going, those people are objects in your environment. I.e., you can go up, you could touch them, you could push them around, you could interact with them. They're objects in your environment in the most, basic sense. And so, are those people that you don't have any attachment to just interchangeable objects? In actuality, yes, they are. They're just objects, i.e., things within your environment moving about randomly on their own courses that you can choose to interact with, but also they could be completely replaced by a whole different group of people and objects. And so in the purest sense, if you're not interacting with those things, they are just passing objects. There's no need for you to attribute more to them. And now here's where I want to jump down to the denial of subjectivity, where it's treating a person as if there is no need to be concerned for their experiences or feelings. Now, if I took into account all of the experiences, all of the feelings and so on that, for example, a client that I have has, then potentially I get drawn into those and I lose some of my objectivity, and as a result I become worse at my job and it becomes harder to do my job. And so, this is where I feel that some of the personal responsibility stuff that I talk about comes in, because I don't need to be concerned for other people's feelings and experiences in full, especially if I'm just moving into an environment with some people that I'll probably never see again, I won't interact with for any decent length of time. I don't need to have a deep understanding or a deep appreciation of their experiences and feelings. Yeah, especially when, as said, personal responsibility, you're responsible for your own feelings. Only you can decide what you feel. There's no two ways about that. There are some exceptions, obviously, with whereby your brain is working against you or whatever else, but for the most part, if I don't want someone to get under my skin and upset me, that's my choice as to whether or not I let them get under my skin and upset me. And as a result, if everyone takes responsibility for their own feelings, their own ins and outs, the way they work, the things that they've done, the things that they are going to do, if that's all a personal responsibility thing, then there's no need for you to worry about each individual person that you might bump into. You don't need to care about if you're going to upset everybody by just being you, because that's paralyzing. And so I would argue with this last point, saying that yes, if you're just going out of your way to be an arsehole and not care, or to be disruptive, or to belittle people's experiences for whatever reason, fine. But if you're just not caring, and you're just passing through, and you're not infringing on anyone else, and you're just acting as another, to anyone else, you're just another object moving through their environment. And so the things you say and the things that you experience are on you, and all of the things that everyone else experiences and everything else that the other people feel is on them. Then what that comes down to is, as long as you aren't infringing on their experiences, like deliberately going in with a hammer and pickaxe and just like boring your way into their experiences and their life in such a way that they can't ignore you, that they can't just go, this guy's not going to get under my skin, it's not going to bother me, I'm good. If you make yourself such a large obstruction and kind of negative experience, just in a very deliberate and pointed way, then yeah, you're an arsehole and there's no two ways about it. But then you're dealing with this denial of subjectivity. You're not letting people just experience things the way they want to experience them, or appreciate things on their own level. But for example, if I come in and I'm just talking, then I should just be able to talk to friends, for example, or wear my hair, or dress however I like, really, without someone jumping in on kind of my space. And there are some other exceptions to this, because obviously if I was going to a place with a dress code of one form or another, then as part of my experience, I should be aware, I should be prepared to go and do that if I want to do that thing. That experience is that space, that thing is set, and I shouldn't have the expectation of jumping in and making what I am kind of interject and make everything else around me adapt to me instead of just adapting to it. Because then if I'm jumping in on, say, as said, with a dress code, if I decide to wear something that's completely against the dress code and jump in on that environment, then I am pointedly damaging the experience of everybody else that's there that has decided to conform. There's two ways about this. There has to be that balance between them. And as a result, just flatly saying, oh, well, treating people as an object is bad when they're just when they are just a passing object in your environment, there's no two ways about it. And treating people as if as if you have no concern for their feelings and experiences, that's a two-way street. You have to sit in the middle there, because you need to make sure that you're paying attention to your inner workings and making sure that you're not infringing on other people, but also other people shouldn't be allowed to infringe on you. There's that two-way thing. But removal of autonomy and self-determinism, and the removal of and again some of the interchangeable stuff, and the ownership of people, again, all of these things I feel come together in a big kind of mess when it comes to the working world. People are bought and sold all the time. People have value attached to them. People are, and I mean that in regards to people like footballers, or people changing record labels, or whatever else, staff being transferred from one company to another as a result of a takeover. People are treated this way in the grand scheme of things an awful lot. Maybe not by individuals, but maybe just as numbers on a sheet. You've got these things all happening, and they're not always bad. Sometimes they are just mechanisms as a result of things happening. Sometimes they are in fact advantageous that these people have been treated in such a way to ensure that they keep their jobs. And as a result, I'm just trying to lay out the fact that the objectification, when a human being is stuck in here and they can interact through the world through the body that they have, but that even that body is still can be counted as an object, then if I'm stuck in here and I have full agency over this, so I know that this is me, but that the other person over there is just an object in my environment at the time, then how am I to know that person, that individual that looks like me across the room, that figure that looks like me across the room, is a person? I need to go and interact with that. I need to go and gain a greater appreciation of that for me to then find the points of commonality between what I've got up here and what they've got up there, and how it can relate. And this is why I talk about having discussions and debates and making sure that you've got understanding and rapport and education so much, because those points of commonality between people can't be established without those things. So then looking at the violability thing, subset, this is where, as I said, you've got people who are dehumanizing others, and as a result feeling that they're easily removed. This is part of Manifest Destiny that happened in the States with the removal of the Native Americans, and with the Spanish wiping out Mayan people, And you've got this happening when the Nazis destroyed all of the different people that they killed. You know, all of the minorities, the Jews that they kind of took excessive action against. You know, you've got all of these examples throughout history of when you go, that person is this and we are this, and as a result we're different, and so we're human because we know we are, because we agree we are, but that we don't know that they are, and so they can't be, and so we have to lay waste to them. You know, you're even seeing this at the moment in regards to the Syrian refugee crisis, in regards to the things that are happening in the Middle East, in the things that are happening in and around Brexit, in and around the United States with Donald Trump's election. You know, you're seeing all of these things kind of bloom and show themselves off more, where you're seeing the lines more cleanly drawn, where people have been divided, or where they've divided themselves, and as a result you're not going to get just a passing objectification as that is an individual that I have no real appreciation of moving through my environment. Fair enough. It becomes a case of that's just a random thing that it does, that has no place here. I can do what I like with it. And so this is where, when objectification is brought up and you have an awful lot more discussion on sexual objectification than anything else, if it weren't for sexual objectification, you wouldn't have kind of the on-site appreciation of potential mates, and as a result you wouldn't have as easy a time in regards to just general reproduction on a sexual level. You know, you need to be able to see, identify, work around, and then work to experience a potential mate. And the first stages of that are the objectification of, the realization that that is a thing of a certain type within your environment, and that it has a certain purpose, you know, for you. This is one of the reasons why men's eyes wander, even if they're in a very happy and committed relationship. They will still just notice things in their environment. They will still just see these things and they will be drawn to it because their brain is associating. Doesn't mean they will act. It doesn't mean that they will do a damn thing. It just means that those are things that they will notice. There are things that women notice more so than men. The number of times that my girlfriend will ask me about what people were wearing, or did I see this, or did I see that? And it's a case of either because I just wasn't interested, because it didn't appeal to me personally, or because it just isn't something that my brain picks up. You know, I won't see those things. I won't recognise them. Differences in colour, again, are a thing that she will notice, that I will just go, yeah, that's pink. That's also pink. Cool. Pink. And there'll be the slightest difference in shade, but there'll be all the difference to her or my mother or any of my other female friends. It'll be a thing that jumps out at them and I'm just like, yep, pink. And so what it comes down to is the sexual objectification isn't a big deal. Is it a big deal if it extends to things like the violability, where people are actually being harmed? Does it extend to people being interjected upon? When it does, that's wrong. That's against certain parts of kind of laws and the way that society is formatted itself, in which case there are mechanisms to deal with that. But is it a thing that we need to worry about on a daily basis? Is it a thing that you need people screaming about and suggesting that you're harassing or objectifying just because you've just, you know, treated the world as if it's just a set of objects that you're moving amongst? You know, no, you don't need that, because that is one of the reasons why you have had people driven towards people like Trump and driven towards the nationalist ideologies elsewhere in the world that are causing so much harm in places, and the extreme positions on religion and stuff like that that are also causing so much harm. It's all because people are driven away from just wanting to experience life and walk through it, and they are being pushed. You've got people who are choosing the us versus them ideologies, throwing it at normal people and driving them away. And as a result, it becomes us versus them from the other side, and the random moving objects disappear, and you've got friendlies and enemies. And that's how things become classified, and it all becomes so damaging for no reason whatsoever, when you can just appreciate that everyone around you is an object, that you are an object, that the world is purely composed of objects. It's just that some of those objects, like the ones that look like you, the ones with 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 ears, whatever, those objects are the ones that are more complex and the ones that you can interact with in so many more fascinating ways. And that's what needs to be appreciated. Anyway, if you found this interesting, guys, please drop me a like and subscribe for more. What do you think? What do you think about objectification? Is it something that we need to stamp on and gnash our teeth over when so much of it is easily explained as just general perceptive quirks here and there? Or is it something that we need to somehow stamp out when, as said, most of the world of business and general interaction revolves around some of these basic ideas? But anyway, let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.